Hello, learners, Mr. G here. I'm a little bit better with my voice, so I'm going to make a video today on naming hydrocarbon. Later on, I make another one of naming other compounds, but today we are going to name only hydrocarbons. You will see that the steps are almost the same. It's very little difference here and there, but most of the steps are the same. So if you learn the steps to name hydrocarbons, you can then name any other compound, okay? So before we start, let's record what are the hydrocarbons. Let's just a quick look at hydrocarbons. We have three hydrocarbons. We have alkanes. Now, the alkanes don't have a functional group, but how do you identify alkanes? They only have carbon and hydrogens, and all the bonds between the carbons are single bond. Okay, now what is important to know? If a compound is an alkane, the name of that compound will end in "ane". So whatever the compound is, the names will always finish or end in "ane". For example, butane, methane, etc. Okay, the other hydrocarbon we did was the alkene. Then that one has a functional group, which is double bond between carbon. Only carbon and hydrogens, and they have double bond between carbon. Remember, every carbon must have 4 bonds, okay? So if you have a compound and that compound ends with an alkene, it will end in. All right? And the last one is alkynes, and then the alkyne has the characteristic of the functional group, which is triple bond between carbons. It has a triple bond between carbons, and then the name will end in "ine". This is important. It's just to record things we did. Now, if we're going to record a little bit more, remember the alkenes and alkynes are to be unsaturated, and the alkanes to be saturated. This is not needed now for the naming, but it's important to record. Okay, so this is the first important thing before we name the hydrocarbons. Remember what I said. First of all, if the compound is an alkane, the name will finish in "ane". If it's an alkene, will finish in "in", and if it's an alkyne, will finish in "ine". All right. So let's go now to the steps when naming hydrocarbon. So the first step is always going to be to identify the homologous series. Remember, we make a video before about homologous series. However, this is only going to be about hydrocarbons. So the first step always is going to be to identify the homologous series. So we have a hydrocarbon here. What is this? This is an alkane. You can only see carbon and hydrogen, and all the bonds between carbons are single bonds. Therefore, this is an alkane, and therefore the name will finish in "ane". So this is the first part. This is the first step. Let's go to step number 2. Now, in step number 2, we're going to find out the longest continuous carbon chain. So we have to make sure we determine which one is the longest continuous one, and we are going to make sure we write the following prefixes here. So if it's only one carbon, we write meth. If the longest carbon chain have 3 carbons, then it's prop, and so on. I'm not going to read through all of them. So make sure you identify the longest one, okay? So we have the 3 compounds here. We have 3 different options. That is why I draw the same compound 3 times. So the first option is this one here. That is one continuous carbon chain. The second option we have is this one here. And the third option that we have is this one here. So we have to look for the longest continuous one. In this one, in the first one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons as the longest one. Here we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 carbon. And in the last option, we only have 3. So the last option is out. Not the last option. We look for the one that is longer. So either the first one or the second one have 4. So we can take either of them. However, I think the easiest one is the one that is straight. 4. So 4 is going to be but. 4 is going to be, not pent. 4 is going to be but. Therefore, as we did before, it's like writing data, we have but. All right, this is going to be but. So far what we know is but and is ane. That is all we have up until now. Okay, we have but and we have ane. Let's go to the next step. I hope that one was clear. Remember, the advantage of the video is that you always can stop the video and always go back if it went too fast. Okay, step 3. You're going to number the carbon in the longest carbon chain, starting at the end closest to the functional group. However, for alkanes, we are going to do step 4 first. For all the other compounds, we are going to do step 3 as it is. Okay, we'll see another example just now. So, step 3, number the carbon in the longest carbon chain, starting at the end closest to the functional group. But because alkanes don't have functional group, we are going to go to step 4 first. Now, step 4 is look for any branch or alkyl group. Now, we are going to have 2 alkyl groups, methyl and ethyl. Methyl is in the form of CH3, or if it's with a structural formula, it's carbon with 3 hydrogens. This is called methyl. If it's ethyl, you will have CH2, CH3. Or if it's with a structural formula, you will have C with 2 hydrogens and another C with 3 hydrogens. So those are the 2 different type of branches, the 2 alkyl groups. Okay. So what we are going to do is we're going to go to the compound which we have here, and we're going to look for any of those 2 branches. Now here you can see that this one is a branch. This one here is a branch. Now what branch is it? Okay, you can see there is the first one. So this one is a methyl. So let's quickly go back to the steps. The step 1 is to look for the homology series. This is an alkane, and therefore it will finish in ane. Step 2, they find out the longest continuous carbon chain and use any of the prefixes there: meth, eth, prop, but, pent, hex, hept, oct, non, and dec. Any of them according to how long is the longest continuous carbon chain. We decide was this one here, the first one. The first option here has 4. We're going to use that. So far we know that it's going to be but and it's going to end in ane. Now we're going to step number 3, number the carbon, but because this is an alkane, we're going to go to step 4 first. Look for any branch alkyl or alkyl group. Okay, there's the 2 different type of alkyl group we have, which is methyl and ethyl, and we're going to mark in the chain. Okay, so far we have now, so far we know that this but, we know that this ane, and we know that we have a methyl somewhere there. Okay, now we are going to step 3. First step 4, then step 3 for alkanes. Okay, now step 4, we are going to count the numbers starting from the end nearest to the branch. So we're going to write numbers here starting from the end nearest to the branch. If we start here, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. But if you start from here, you start with 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this end here is closer to the branch. So we're going to start counting from there. So this one is going to be out. Okay, sorry about that one. There we go. Okay, so those are the numbering. So what does the step say here, number the carbon in the longest carbon chain started at the end, close to the functional group, but for the alkanes, we're going to look for the branches, okay? So now we did count the carbon. Let's go to the next step. Now, the next step say, step 5, name the alkyl groups by counting the number. If more than one of the same, write both numbers and one of the prefixes. So if you have more than one of the same one, for example, a methyl, you can write, this is just an example. Do you understand this part here? You can write 2,3 dimethyl. If you have more of the one. So you have to indicate the number of carbon in which it is allocated, and you have to write di because they have two. Now, in this case, we only have one. We have one methyl, which is in carbon 2. So we have to write here 2-methyl. All right, so let's go back and write everything we are having. We know it's going to end in ane. We know it's going to be bute. And we know we have a 2-methyl. We have a 2-methyl. So step 6 is to write the name. Always the alkyl groups in alphabetical order if you have more than one. Okay? And if you have, for example, methyl and ethyl, ethyl is coming first because you're going to use alphabetical order. In this case, we only have methyl. Now, for the alphabetical order, you ignore the di, you ignore the tri. So still ethyl is before methyl. Okay? It doesn't matter if you have 2 or 3. All right? So step 6 is the name, and now we're going to combine. First, the alkyl groups. We have here 2-methyl. 2-methyl. Bute is coming then, and then it's coming ane. This is the name of that specific compound. 2-methyl butane. That is the name of that compound. I hope it's clear. Let's look another one, another example. So in this example, we have this compound. This is now when you have the another one except an alkane. Okay. So what was step 1? Step 1 was identify the homologous series. You can see the double bond. Therefore, this is an alkene, and it will end in. So this is step 1. What is step 2? Find the longest continuous carbon chain. So let's look here and find. I also copy the same one 3 times because we have 3 different options. Option 1 is going to be this. Option 1 is going to be this one here. Okay. In that option, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbon. Option 2 could be this one here. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 carbon as well. And option 3 we can have this one here. We have only 1, 2, 3, and 4 carbons, so this one is out. It's either one of the previous ones. Okay. Now remember, when you take the functional, the longest carbon chain must be, the double bond must be involved, the functional group must be involved. For example, I cannot take this combination. I cannot take such a combination because the double bond is out. So the functional group must be part of the counting of the longest carbon chain. So we take this one, which is 6, and therefore 6 is hex. So now we have this in, and we have hex. This is our information up until now. Let's go to step number 3. Number the carbon in the longest carbon chain starting at the end closest to the functional group. So this is what we have. Okay, this is what we have. So we're going to number the carbon starting from the end closest to the functional group. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, or we can start from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If we start from the bottom, the double bond is in the first carbon. If we start in from top, the double bond is in carbon 6. So the correct one is the bottom because it's closer to the double bond, which is the functional group. Now, important with alkenes and alkanes. We have now that the double bond is in the first carbon. Therefore, when we go to the information we have, let's revise the information. We have that is going to be in. We have that is going to be hex. But now we counted. The double bond is in the first carbon, so we have to write down in what number, in what carbon is the functional group. So this is going to be 1 in. Because the double bond, the in, is in carbon 1. So this is the information. Remember, as from here, you have to write down in what number is the double bond, which in this case is in the first carbon. Okay? Step 4. Now, step 4, we are going to find out any branch. What branches do we have here? We have here methyl, and we have here ethyl. All right. So what information? We don't have more branches. So what information we have up until here? Let's go back. We have 1 in. We have hex. We have in carbon 3, we have a methyl, and we have in carbon 4 an ethyl. This is all the information we have up until now. All right? So, any question up until here? I hope everything is sorted. If you have a question, you can write a comment and ask any question. Okay? Step 5, name the alkyl group by counting the numbers. That we did it here. Name the alkyl group by starting the number. If more than one of the same, write both numbers and one of the prefixes. So, as we said, we have 3 methyl and we have 4 ethyl. Remember, if there is any question, you can ask in the comments, okay? And now it's write the name. So everything we have this one, we have is going to be 1 in, we have hex, and then we are going to combine the name. Always the alkyl group first in alphabetic order. So saying that is going to be first the ethyl. So it's 4 ethyl. 4 ethyl. 3 methyl. 3 methyl hex. 3 methyl hex. 1 in. This is the complete name for this specific compound. I hope it did help. Go slow through the video. If you have any questions, remember you can ask. If you don't understand any of the steps, the work is not difficult and it's a lot of mark for learning how to name compounds. Thank you very much. Good luck. The next video is going to be helping you with naming other organic compounds, other homology series. Thank you very much. Up to next time.